Hey everybody, it's Party Elite. Welcome back to another episode of our Planet Zoo franchise mode Let's Play. We're gonna dive right back into Elite Zoo South. There is a lot to get done today, folks, and I'm actually gonna take a slightly different approach to today's episode. It's similar to something that we've done a very little bit of in the recent past. It's something I even kind of touched on only relatively recently, considering the entire span of 200 plus episodes of Planet Zoo on the channel. But I do think this is one of those rare occasions where I have to kind of pull the trigger on this move, and that is that today's session will primarily be focused on a time-lapse. The reason for doing this is because I feel like the new enclosure that we're building, there were a couple of missteps last session, and going through the comments, I think many of you felt that way as well, or touched on that as well, and it was something I was already kind of hesitant about, and then seeing it reaffirmed in the comments made me really rethink the enclosure that we've got right now. And I don't want to feel like I've lost too much time on it or anything like that. I want to make sure we keep making progress. I want to make sure we maintain some momentum over here. And so today's session, I think we're going to try and focus hard on the time lapse and try and make more progress than we otherwise regularly would, which means that the episode itself might be a little bit on the shorter side because there won't be that tail end management, but we will still have dedicated the same amount of time, and not just that, but more time than usual on the time lapse itself, to try and, again, make progress on that front. I think from a management perspective, we've done decently recently. Rhyming is unintentional, but welcome. I do think we've done decently in terms of getting everything kind of in place and in order. I think things are moving relatively smoothly. I mean, yes, we had some issues last session, but I mean that's a natural part of owning a zoo. Of course, the penguins are unhappy about certain things, but that's something we're going to be taking care of as we develop their space and everything. But I think we're going to dive into a time lapse, and that'll be the vast majority of today's episode, with no real post time lapse management. And I think the session after this one, we will either have a regular one where we kind of split the time lapsing and management as usual, or we'll do a management episode. I think I'm leaning more towards doing a mix of both, like a regular episode, because I feel like we can't. It'll be some time before we or before I'll feel comfortable. This is not a train. Before I'll feel comfortable. Sorry, completely threw myself off there. Before I feel comfortable not doing a time-lapse, it'll be at least a couple of episodes, because I do want to make progress on a couple different things, and I want to make sure we don't slow our roll, as it were. But yeah, so with that said, primary focus today is, of course, the penguin enclosure. I got a lot of great comments with regards to how it maybe should be tweaked, or what does or doesn't make sense about it, and how we could make it make sense. So I definitely want to try and implement some of that. I think I've overdone it with the cave. I do still worry that it might be a little bit too large, but that's something that we can work around. We can work around that just fine. But we'll see. As I set this place up, there are things for me to consider. There's a lot of stuff for me to consider. For example, something that was brought up is how I could have used the giant lake that the Aldabra tortoises use in their enclosure, because there's so much unused space there, and I could have used that for the penguins. Yes, I absolutely could have, but I didn't really want to. I like that being this massive unused space. We have a lot of space in the zoo. There's a lot of room for views and things like that, and I quite like that space being as it is, a little isolated and feeling like this sort of tropical beach, if you will. Also, as far as regional references are concerned, like geographical. Oh, hang on a second. This is not okay. Go ahead and just smooth you out a little bit. There we go. Much better. There we go. Cool. Just wanted to fix that. Yeah, I guess you kind of arrive over here. We haven't done this train ride, have we? Then you'd come all the way down over here. And then how would you... It's interesting trying to figure out... And you'd go over this way. Around this way. Trying to figure out, like, the journey people have to take to various spots. Come down this way. So that train ride brings you over here. And then, yeah. Come over here. You head over this way. And then you would turn up over here. And yes, I didn't complete the loop last session because I didn't want to take the time to deal with the water treatment plant and stuff like that. That's why I didn't finish the loop last session, but this absolutely does still, yes, need to get done. And you come in over here, and we're going to make a nice fancy space for it. I do like this idea still. Probably still try and maintain this, but we'll see what needs to change to make this all work. But yeah, I think it would be a lot nicer to have a building down over here. But anyway, as I was getting at just moments ago, with regards to the Aldabra giant tortoises, if I can find you, if I can go to your Zoopedia entry, and if I could verify, yes, okay, I was 99% sure because of all the Seychelles references, of course, in the space, right? But I wanted to be 100% sure that it wasn't like they're in the Seychelles, but also off the coast of South America. Now, I don't often use geography to like dictate where things go, but from a continent perspective, I certainly do. And while yes, the penguins are close to Africa, the intent was to make them a part of the South American section of the zoo. So I wanted to kind of pull them away from this experience and make them a part of like this experience over here. Is that right of me to do? Is that the best call? I mean, it's a matter. It's a subjective topic of conversation, obviously. So I'm not discounting the opposing opinion or what have you. I'm not saying that no, you're wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. So I want to be clear about that because it is a very subjective thing. But I felt like keeping them more attached to the Galapagos giant tortoises and the oh god, jaguars, leopards, every time to South America. To South America just makes a lot more sense and stays in theme with our overall kind of decision-making process, as it were, which is why I chose this space. But yeah, maybe a full-on cave is not so fitting for the animals and how they live and what they do and how they behave and all that kind of stuff. So we will be tweaking that. As you can imagine, that'll take a fair bit of time, which is why we're going... What is this? Which is why we're going for this longer time-lapse session today, so we can hopefully make some good progress over here, and I can figure out some more details with regards to how this space actually works. We might actually need to get the penguins out of here, because we might make some pretty drastic changes. Maybe they'll be okay. We'll find out. Either way, folks, with that said, there's much else to say. Oh, there is one more thing to say, I suppose. Wow, I can't believe it. It's June. Folks, as we're kicking off the first, I guess, session of the new month, just a brief mention again. If you've been enjoying this series, and if you've been really enjoying this series, I humbly suggest, or request, I guess is the word I was looking for, that you maybe check out my Patreon. Again, link to that is always in the description down below. If you would rather not use a third-party service, you can opt to instead become a channel member as well. A link to that is in the description down below too, or you can click the join button that is right below the video. Again, links to both in the description. And again, and as always, one of the key perks of being a channel member or patron that I've had a lot of fun with, at least personally, is sponsor boards and staff naming. So if you would like to have a staff member named after yourself, or if you would like to sponsor one of the animals, please don't hesitate to let me know by leaving a comment down below if you're a member, because I'll get a little symbol next to your name. I'll know you're a member, and I'll note it down. Or if you're on Patreon, then shoot me a private message. In fact, I've already got some private messages getting getting me notes in advance, so that's always great. So I've got a couple of requests already, but if you have more you'd like to add, if you have any animals you'd like to sponsor, or any staff members you would like to have named, let me know. Again, that's for channel members and patrons, folks, as a little kind of extra perk. The way to say thank you for the support. That really helps keep the channel going and keeps the series going as well. Again, never an obligation. Please don't feel that way, and that's why I try to only mention it once a month. With that said, I can't believe it's June. But with that said, folks, it's time last time. All right, folks, I am really quite pleased with this time lapse. I'm very glad that I decided to take a step back. I'm very glad that I stopped where I stopped last session, and pulled back to get other people's opinions and stuff. This is the thing, right? Sometimes when you get into a project, you can really get like lost in it. everything starts to make sense because you're already on the go and you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Oh yeah, this makes sense. Let's just do this. Yeah, this works. This works. This works. And then you take a step away from it, or you ask for other people's opinions, and they point out the issues. And well, at that point, one of two things can happen. Either you resist, you go, no, you're wrong, I'm right, and you stick with your original plan. Or you go, oh wow, yeah, y'all have some points, and I should reconsider. And the latter is what happened this time, because y'all had some points, and I decided to reconsider. By that pause there for a moment while we were by the Galapagos tortoises, was me realizing just how many of them there are. There are, like, I need to remember to showcase it next session. There's a lot of them. There's a ridiculous number of them. I should probably actually put them on contraceptives or something. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I felt like, yeah, y'all were right. Again, I was, I had some, I don't want to call them misconceptions. I guess there were misunderstandings. Misconception sounds it's too strong almost. But like, I guess I misunderstood or mistook the natural habitat of the king penguin to be one thing when really it's a blend of a few things. I got a lot of feedback with regards to that. A lot of feedback with regards to it being a cave, with regards to just all of the moving parts of this enclosure. And as always, I read all the comments. Lately, it's been a bit tougher for me to do my kind of second read-through, but that's why I do my first read-through, because then I have all the comments in mind, at least. Even if I haven't written them all down, I have them all in mind. I've already kind of mulled over them. I've thought about them, so I can respond to them with my actions and whatnot. Lately, though, things have been kind of wild. There's a lot going on the channel. Lots of fun stuff that I've been releasing videos for and stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I saw all the feedback, and I thought, right, okay, let's rework this thing. And I'm so very glad that I did, because I'm significantly happier with what we end up with today than where we ended up last session. I will later go on a bit of a rant or ramble or tirade, whatever's the fitting term for it, with regards to some of these vinyl poster-like things, whatever we could call them. I forget what the game calls them. You'll see me use them a little bit, but not too much, and there's a reason for that. You can see me here actually mentally drawing out a shape and trying to figure out where things will be placed. And we actually come very close to being accurate to that little cursor movement illustration we were doing there. But I was trying to figure out, like, I still want to do this raised platform eating area where guests will be, yes, potentially with a slightly fishy smell in the air. The guests will be able to sit down and have a snack. Now, penguins don't smell fishy, do they? But like what they eat, I guess. But penguins themselves, what do penguins smell like? I know, a weird question to ask, but the comment got me thinking. I was like, what do penguins smell like? I've never smelled penguins. But anyway, I thought this would still be a nice kind of little thing to build. I wanted to get a toilet block in here as well. And I could have easily put this toilet block on the floor above the platform as well, and could have very easily integrated it that way. But that's just not me. It wouldn't be me if I did that, right? So instead, I decided to overcomplicate things again, and I wanted to do this like nice kind of like second, like ground floor, top floor mixed kind of a thing, which of course makes it very interesting when it comes time to establish the walls and stuff. So that's always a fun time. And I thought of putting on a second one, but it just wouldn't fit nicely, and I was just like, I don't think we need a second one anyway, and it's gonna it's gonna make the building a bit clunky as well, clunky and kind of chunky. So I decided not to. We might come back and add a second one if more people need a washroom over here, but I have my doubts. Using some of the aquatic pieces, they are really, honestly, some of my favorite pieces I think came from that aquatic DLC. I think they did a really good job of it. Lots of very good construction pieces, lots of very good prefab pieces, fun animal animations and stuff. I do genuinely think it is still probably my favorite DLC. But yeah, so using the aquatic wooden paneling kind of a look to seal this up, I was a little torn, right? I wanted to use the plaster down here as well, but I thought it'd be nice to kind of have this look, this vibe going on at the ground level, and then sort of this would be, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's almost like this is a temporary setup using flat pack paneling within a larger building, because this is all going to be just part of a bigger building, which you're going to see get established today as well. I guess that's a way to put it. But anyway, I just felt like from a textural perspective and from just a visual perspective in general, it was nice. Changed the color, of course, made it white because of, I don't know, it felt like the right thing if it's supposed to be representative of a snowy landscape, of a building in a snowy landscape, I guess. It looked nice. I'm gonna be honest with you, it looked nice. I recolored the washroom as well. But yeah, so I quite like how, this kind of fits into its space. I wanted to change what the flooring looks like because it really doesn't jive. Like that diagonal crossed flooring pattern just doesn't work, so I decided to use the actual aquatic DLC's flooring piece as well, and just add a little bit of color over here, a little bit of variety, and break it up a little bit. Just make it a bit more, I don't know, like there was some effort put into it, I guess. I don't know how to phrase it. I just didn't like how the actual ground itself worked. It did not really work well for me, in my opinion. By the way, we have a very weird thing going on with the actual ground, and I don't like that it does this. See, what happened was everything was perfectly squared off because I used the grid, obviously, but when I put down the like the food vendors and stuff like that, the one that's on the farthest like corner there, because of how it was placed, it curved the entirety of the straight line like grid. And it's really annoying when it does that, because I try to be so particular about that, but sometimes it won't not do it. And I've been told, actually, it keeps slipping my mind when I place things down, I've been told that vendor stalls don't actually have to be connected to the path, they just have to be right next to them, and vendors will be able to get in and people will be able to buy from them. So maybe I should have done that instead. But it's resulted in a slight curve on that far side. And it's not the end of the world, but it is annoying at times just trying to get things to line up. That's one of my biggest annoyances with building structures, by the way, is some of those like strange behaviors from pieces, but also what's it called? The fact that you cannot use construction pieces, like grid construction pieces, the same way as other pieces. And I know I've been over this 100 times, I'm not going to harp on this, but that's always been a pain for me. Not just in the fact that you cannot rotate them in every direction, but also that you can't duplicate them together. Like, you can't have multiples in separate objects and then duplicate them all together. You have to duplicate them one by one or group them into one object, but you can't group them into one object unless they're following the grid, the same grid. And it's just like, why? I think that's my biggest roadblock when it comes to building structures. I feel my creativity stifled. And while I do enjoy trying to find ways around those limitations, because that in and of itself is a type of creativity, it's not. Sometimes it just doesn't work in a way that is fun to explore or fun to tackle, and that ends up taking away from the experience. And that's, I think, part of the reason why I often hesitate with building structures, because like for me personally, like look, at the end of the day, I guess you could say it's all just a matter of patience. If you're patient enough with it, you'll make it work. If you have 4 or 5 hours to spare, you can do something which otherwise you could have maybe done it in 1.5. And that bothers me. See, the thing is, I cannot, and maybe it's because of, I don't know, I don't want to, I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it's because of what I used to do back in the day or something. But from a UX perspective, it grinds my gears, and I think that is a big part. I think that's a bigger part of why I don't like dealing with it, because it's not, oh man, this is difficult, or this is tough, or this is time consuming. It's, why is this like this? Which, I mean, hopefully I communicated that clearly enough. I think you could understand the difference in being frustrated at something because it's just not working right, and being frustrated at something because it shouldn't be the way it is. And I think that happens a lot when I'm building buildings. But fortunately, all of the really fun elements over here with today's building actually work out quite nicely with those limitations. so I'm not too fussed about it. I just thought it was funny to think back on what causes some issues for me from time to time. But now we've got this like circular kind of dome thing going on, and I could very easily just keep it a big circle, but I was like, nah, let's make it a bit more interesting. And just randomly decided to start making some shapes. No direction here, no pre-planning or anything like that. At first I was going to fill it half and half, and I was like, it's going to look like a Pokeball. I don't really want to do that. And instead I ended up with something that I think looks pretty sick. It looks like, I don't know, cracking ice. What it looks like, what it makes me think of is the Raptors logo, is the first thing that comes to mind. So, you know, I'm not going to complain about that. That sounds good. It does look like a basketball that's been, like, you know, ripped. But it also, to me, feels like kind of like shattering ice or breaking, yeah, like breaking ice and stuff like that. I don't know. There's something about it that I find visually striking. And it was pure chance, right? Like, it wasn't pre-planned. I didn't sketch this out or know how I was going to do this. I put down a bunch of random plaster blocks, and then I duplicated them and placed them randomly. And I was like, damn, this looks pretty dope, so I'm going to keep this. And so there you have it. You know, it's a happy accident, as they say. A lot of good things. A lot of good things in life are the result of happy accidents, and this is one of the lesser ones, I guess. But hey, it's still good. I mean, I like it. I hope you'll like it as well. Yeah, it's just it's a fun shape. It's a fun visual, and from up on high, which is where we'll be seeing it from more often than not, it's nice to have fun visuals. A little about it just works, but yeah, I'm really pleased with how this like rooftop kind of section has come out. It's got some visual striking elements. It wasn't impossible to build. I wanted to avoid a dome this time because I've done domes and half domes, and they are one of the things that, like, often I'm just like, man, why? And I wanted to avoid that here, not just because we already have, like, the Nile monitor kind of has like a half dome thing going, and I wanted to do something different here, but also because I just wanted to. Well, actually, that's probably the main reason, is I want to do something different over here. Also, if you, like, really stretch your imagination, it kind of has Millennium Falcon vibes from Up on High, and that's also something I'm not going to complain about. Again, you really got to stretch the imagination, but it's there. It's there if you want to see it. It's there. So honestly, overall, this redesign makes me happy in all sorts of ways. Now here you can see me experimenting with what happens with, like, interior walls and stuff. Again, I got suggestions to use the like the paneling, like the artwork, vinyl, whatever it is. I forget the name now for some reason. But I got that suggestion, and I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. I should use it, and it just didn't jive with me. I explained why afterwards. I try to explain why afterwards. I hope I do a decent job of it. But in some ways, the faux horizon makes me very kind of like uncomfortable, if you will, and I also feel like maybe it's not so necessary when the animal actually has so much space, and I want to make the space kind of come to life. And I have a lot of great plans. Well, at least I hope they're great. I've got a lot of plans. Let's just call them plans until they're executed. We can call them great or bad later, but I've got a lot of plans with regards to how we're going to make the space feel like home, as it were. I've got, like, kind of this, like, sandy beach kind of a thing. I really, you know, I need to look at some references of, like, how a sandy beach might transition into a snowy landscape. Nothing comes to mind right now, but I need to look into it. Which is something I'll be doing for next time. I'm not able to finish the whole thing today. It's a big undertaking. But before today's time-lapse wrapped up, I did want to try and fix up this section. Turns out what the problem was the Aldabra tortoises, or, yeah, I think it's their enclosure. The tops of the barrier were so high that the penguin enclosure's barriers thought they were intersecting. And I was like, I didn't think that was a thing with null barriers, but, you know, here we are. Problem solved, though. We fixed it up, so now they shouldn't be able to escape. I'm going to adjust the barrier size in general as well. This is going to give them so much room to play. I think we could actually have like 100 penguins in here, I'm not going to lie. And that'll be, you know what, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. We'll see what comes of it. But folks, I hope you enjoyed this time-lapse. If you did, you know what to do. Let me know down below. And like I mentioned before as well, and I'll mention later again, if you've been enjoying this series, I humbly request maybe you suggest, you check out my channel membership or becoming a channel patron through Patreon. Links to both in the description down below. Anyways, folks, back to regular speed now, and the conclusion of this episode. Alright, folks, we are back from the time-lapse, and, well, I was right. It was time-consuming, but I think I'm significantly happier with what we're looking at now than with what we had before. There's a visible impact to the zoo. There's a visible change. It's a very large space, actually, when you kind of like compare it to what we thought was big previously. Sorry, I can't help but like kind of laugh at my. I mean, look at this. Like, look at the look at Croc Rock versus what we've got going on over here. Now, again, to be fair, we're gonna have a lot more penguins than we're ever gonna have saltwater crocs, right? So that's all good. I'm not worried about that or anything. But I just find it kind of cool that it like actually makes a bit of an impact to the zoo now. I wonder actually if. Hang on a second. I want to very quickly. You know what? This could work out really nicely if we can. I'll spend some more time finessing this in the future. Wouldn't say maybe necessarily not next time, but in the future. Finesse this a little bit and come on, don't. Oh, flashing red, you know. So it's like very seizure inducing. Did not like the flashing red. Not for me, but for anybody who's watching, that's not a very good oh my god, stop. Alright, I'll just pop you down over here. It's because I'm going over the edge of the map. But yeah, sorry, I just got distracted by the red flashing. I think this would look really quite nice if we have I wasn't even thinking about this at first. But kind of have like this like hidden little thing that peeks out. Obviously this doesn't fly. I mean, right now it's literally flying, but there we go. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, this could be interesting. Right at the corner of the map over here. It's coming together. But yeah, sorry, what I was getting at is that this feels a lot more in tune with, I think, what I was hoping for as well. And then when I read through the comments, unless I got you guys all wrong, I feel like this is what a lot of us were hoping for more. Something that has impact out there and has some impact down here as well. Now, it's obviously not done yet. Need to get some rocks in here. I have some really nice plans for how I want to use the snowy, icy rocks as well as the like maybe not tiger rocks. I don't know which other rocks, but maybe it might actually be the tropical rocks to get the right aesthetic, the right colors. But I have some plans for how this will all work out and how we'll have like some interesting things going on. So I'm really excited for that. But I just did not have time, unfortunately, today during that time lapse. I was right; it's going to be a long one, and we're still going to need more time to get all this stuff done. It's a large space. We do have a couple of new stores that I wanted to point out that we can start looking at names for. We've got a Pip Shot Water, we've got a Street Fox Coffee, and we have a Mexcellente. Any name suggestions are, of course, more than welcome. And I feel like this is at least one of the few places where we can actually serve hot drinks, and people are more likely to pick it up because it's going to be chilly in this entire area. Now, I still have a bit of a cave vibe going on at certain parts and stuff, so I feel like it's a good mix of structure versus cave. Let me know what you guys think about that. I was looking at these murals, and while I do like them, there's something about them, and again, this is super subjective, right? Like I was saying earlier about like my decision-making process, it's super subjective. There's no correct answer or wrong answer per se. It's just a matter of opinion, and so I throw this out to all of you. There's something about this that makes me feel like okay, this stuff works great for something like the zoo's so big. For something like, where am I? Getting so lost. The zoo is so big. There we go. For something like this, it works nicely if you put it on on a building like this or something, you know. But for it to be a part of the enclosure, it just feels a little claustrophobic. It feels it makes me think of, this is an example I'm using because I feel like a lot of people will be familiar with it. It's not what it actually makes me think of, but it's a parallel to what it makes me think of. But in the first of the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. I think it was just called Rise of the... I forget what the prefix is. But the recent trilogy of the Planet of the Apes movies, not the original movies. The recent trilogy, in the first one, the place where all the apes are kept. You know how the wall has the mural? And it makes me think about that. It makes me think about that kind of an environment, I guess. I don't know. I don't love it, you know? It makes me feel like, well, it's an illusion, right? I don't know. It's a weird, not a moral issue or anything. Nothing like that. It's just a vibe I get off of it that makes me feel like it's a lot more claustrophobic, and it just feels like rather than give the animal a big space, we've given it the illusion of a big space. I don't know. We might implement it on the horizon up over there or something, but having it like line the walls everywhere just didn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm wrong. Again, like I said, it's entirely subjective, and I'm sure there's explanations and justifications and all that kind of stuff for it. It just didn't vibe with me, not at the moment at least. I think we'd be much better off making this into a full-on cave and making it feel like their environment rather than, and look like their environment rather than have a mural painted of their environment. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's a lot of room for us to play. There's a lot of work for us to do to make this space come to life and accomplish that. I'm actually really excited for it. But of course, folks, that will have to wait until next time. This episode has already gone on for long enough. I know it's a slightly shorter episode than usual, but it was a longer time lapse, so I got to make sure this thing gets done so I can go out on time. But overall, I'm personally quite pleased with where we sit now versus where we sat at the end of last session. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, as always, helps me make decisions, helps me know what folks are interested in, what you're not interested in terms of what we're doing, but also in terms of the stuff on the channel in general. Folks, like I mentioned before, in case you missed it, just mentioning it again. I try not to mention it too often, but if you've been really enjoying the series, please don't hesitate to maybe check out my... don't hesitate to maybe check out. I love it. I never want people to feel obligated in any way, but you know, I humbly, I suppose, request that maybe you check out my Patreon, or you consider becoming a channel member. Again, links to both of those in the description down below. It does really help the channel. It really helps support these longer running series especially. It does make a very big difference, and I do appreciate it, but of course, and again, there's no obligation or pressure or anything like that. The reminder as well to let me know if you would like to have a staff member named after yourself, or if you would like to sponsor any of the animals. We'll go ahead and get those sponsor boards set up. Maybe not next episode, but the episode after that, perhaps. Sorry. I was still, just saying that makes me go, I can't believe it's June. It's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. But yeah, so, you know, let me know again if you're a member. I can tell right away in the comments because there's a little icon next to your name. If you're a patron instead, shoot me a private message. I've already gotten a couple, and I have seen them. I've started taking notes already, and I'll be looking through them all over the course of the next couple of days so that we can implement all that in the very near future for the month of June. I still can't believe it's June. Folks, I hope you had a good time. If you did, you know what to do. Leave a like, leave a comment. The usual makes a big difference. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Again, y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.